Wonderful to see all of you. My name is Naren Nayak, and I'm part of the IIT Madras Alumni Association here at the Bay Area. And we are very honored and privileged to have one of our alums, Raghu Dharmaraju, visiting from India. From what I know, he's been doing some great work. As an IIT Madras alum, of course, that's to be expected. But he's also part of the Indian Institute of Science, and he's going to talk more about it and the work that he's been doing. So, just wanted to say that thanks to Session, who has helped facilitate this event. We try to do what we can for our alumni in the Bay Area, whether they're visiting from India or whether they're visiting from other parts of the US, or they're within the Bay Area. So many of you I've seen at several events, and I'm glad that you could all be here this evening. Okay, so let's welcome Raghu.
Thank you, Naren, and thank you, Session. And thank you all for making time on a weekday. That's not easy. It's a special privilege to speak to one's alums, and because these are some of the smartest people you run into in your life, and you come to respect them a lot, and folks who can hold your feet to fire, so to say. Right? So I hope to make this an interactive sort of discussion. Certainly not a talk, so to say. Feel free to raise your hands at any point of time. If you disagree with me, especially raise your hands. If I'm saying something you don't understand, raise your hands. Right? Certainly don't be the student I was when I was at IIT Madras. I was a backbencher who barely participated.
You went to class.
Well, it sounds like that counts.
And you went on time. He late, you have to sit in the first row.
Well, that's what actually happened here. I was actually observing. All of you took the back 4 rows first, and the folks who walked in last had to sit in the front row. And of course the speaker. So with that, let me kind of just jump ahead a little bit. And I say how to build AI for social good lessons from trenches. Because right now, the AI headlines are just swinging between hype and fear. Right? It's going to solve everything, or it's going to doom us. Right? But perhaps a more useful lens for a place like India is how can we use AI deliberately, carefully, to have broad societal benefit. Right? And I've been trying to do this. Just before this, I was one of the co-founders of Vardhani AI. It was also an institution funded by an IITM alum, Sunil Vardhani. Right? I have to say this. Sunil and Ramesh were the two founding donors of Vardhani AI, and Anandan and Raghu, our IITM alum, 3 of us were the founding leadership team. And one day, and turns out Ramesh is from IIT Bombay, Sunil is from IIT Madras. And Ramesh asks, sitting at the conference table, how come you are hiring only IIT Madras folks? And Anandan, who was who's been on board of directors at IIT Madras for long, founding MD of Microsoft Research India, he says with a straight face, we hire only the best. So with that, again, very grateful to other IITs represented here. Also, I'm based at IISc now, at ArtPark. ArtPark is a very counterintuitive acronym for AI and Robotics Technology Park. We do 3 things. We build startups, we build platforms, and we do skilling. I'll talk about this. So, just some acknowledgement. We have financial support from a variety of organizations, and the work represented here is not my work as an individual, but really impactful work by amazing teams at ArtPark and Vardhani that I've had the privilege of leading. So, very quickly about ArtPark. We are a non-profit created by the Indian Institute of Science with seed funding from DST and Government of Karnataka, with a broad mission of impact to innovation, and we do that through startups platforms and skilling. How many of you have heard the word DPI or digital public infrastructure these days? Yeah. All right, a handful. So if you are in India today, right, said DPI, probably the rickshaw wala will tell you what a DPI is, right? Because UPI, how many of you know UPI? Okay, great, right? So we don't need visas or Mastercards anymore, right? Because we are able to pay, and the best way to pay if you need change, right, is UPI. Because no one has change, no one is carrying cash anymore, right? And UPI is supposed to be an amazing example. It is an amazing example of digital public infrastructure. So that's what platforms are about, because there are other types of DPI we need, and of course we do skilling.
What is DPG?
Digital public goods. So there is lots of debate about what is DPG, what is DPI. I think that that discussion about specific terminology is less useful. Perhaps way to think about DPI is something that is enabling multiple folks to innovate, right? People use various analogies, roads versus cars and that sort of stuff, right? I have somehow ended up being in health space, especially quite a bit over the last 15 years. And I'm part of this thing called Lancet Commission for Reimagining India's Health System, right? Anyone who has lived through COVID needs, our health systems globally probably need an update. India especially does need an update, right? But what does it look like? When you get a bunch of experts and they say, let's talk about a vision, the usual output is a 100-page document with a lot of vision and no one reads it, right? So when I joined this, I was also at a time when I was searching for what am I going to do next, what are the key things to really resolve. I was already in the AI for impact space. So what I did was actually created a cartoon. There's a longer cartoon that you can access there, Reimagine.net, Reimagine Health. And from the perspective of users, created a bunch of journeys that represented how the health system needs to be. Right? Because if you say, it's not about block diagrams, right, at the end of the day. It's about, if as a user, someone who is not feeling well, you want to approach the health system, what's the journey and experience it provides, right? Our tech companies can get so much out of us just providing that convenience, right? We share all the data in the world with our tech companies because they give us convenience. But our government health systems, and generally health systems in particular, even if private, are not that very user-friendly. So what does this journey look like? So I said, let's say imagine, by the way, I used to say 2030, but after the whole LM hangama, I've overwritten 2030, 2025. Right? Let's say Shanti wakes up with a cough. She says, I have a cough. Sahayak, I mean, most of Sahayak means helper, right? And she speaks to the phone, I have a cough. She says, can I listen to your cough? Take consent, right? And Sahayak then asks about certain symptoms, and perhaps an AI screening engine in the background uses the cough sound, the symptoms, and disease surveillance platform. Remember COVID, we were doing lots of population level intelligence, right? We'll talk about what we are doing after. And then it says urgency score is low, but likely causes are COVID-29 and TB. The reason that is 29 is that was supposed to be 2030. Right? So I'm not predicting the future. I haven't updated my slides, I just caught a bug. And then, how many of you know about Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission or NDHM, National Digital Health Mission? Okay, one or two. So this is essentially, think of this as bringing some basic digital public infrastructure. What does that mean? Standards through which EHR systems in any hospital are in a certain way, adhere to certain standards and can exchange information. There are also certain protocols like health information exchange, health providers repository, etc. These are basically some pieces that are now getting rolled out across both government and private health systems. What does that mean? I don't know what the experience here is, but generally the experience in India is as we go from one doctor to the other, we all start carrying this shopping bag type medical records and we walk around, right? You have your X-rays, MRIs, everything in that, and you start walking around with this polythene bags, and you go in and pay the doctor 1,000 rupees and he pays 2 minutes of attention to all the things you're carrying and hopefully make some sense out of it, right? Which is a terrible, terrible experience, one of the big things that's broken, right? This lack of continuity of care is one of the biggest things that's broken. And that's what Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission is trying to solve. The last bit there, UHI, is United Health Interface. Think of this as email type open protocols. You can email from Gmail to Outlook without having to be on the same exact software, right? That's the point of that. So the idea of this was just to say, how do various pieces of technology come together and provide a smooth journey to a citizen who can just go and get care as required. And out of this came 3 platform initiatives, which is what I'll talk about very briefly today. As you see, language, data and AI. This came out of the inspiration that there was literally housekeeping staff in my apartment complex that had smartphones, spoke 3 languages, especially in Bangalore this is very common, right? Telugu, Tamil and and Kannada obviously, and and she still did not know how to get a COVID vaccination appointment. Just this despite the fact that CoWIN was such a massive, CoWIN was an app that India launched through which these vaccination appointments were given, vaccination certificates were given out, etc. We vaccinated an amazing over 1 billion people in a very short period of time. But this woman did not know how to get a COVID vaccination appointment. And if you see my CoWIN app, right, she's registered on my phone. So as all services become digitized, what does it mean for digital inclusivity when most of our population cannot interact with it the way you and I do with our phones? Because these are windows of opportunity and not just communication, right? So that was why we are doing language. Health, data and AI, there are so many AI-based tools that seem to be out there, but if you look at public health systems in India, or just generally health systems in India, very little has been actually deployed, right? What's the starting point? How many of you here are building any health AI? Anyone? What's the starting data set for you usually if you're beginning to build something? Where is the data set from?
Personal family records.
Personal family, I think you're a bold man.
Where do you have to get it from?
Hospitals.
Yeah, you probably got on Kaggle, or maybe you had access to some data set online that most probably if you trace its provenance, you have to either NIH or NHS sort of thing, UK or US basically. These are not data sets representative of India's diversity or the problems, right, or the settings, right? And that has become a big bottleneck because lots of folks are coming and say, hey, I have this app or the other, but the system doesn't know how to validate it. The system can only validate it if they have independent data sets of their own that are somewhat representative in nature, right? So that's again a platform initiative. The third one, during COVID, there was more computational epidemiology. How many of you understand how many of you do not understand? Okay. Do you have a broad idea of what computational epidemiology is? Most people, it's basically what, no? See, during COVID, you have seen predictions of various types, right? We were all tracking these things second by second, right? And all this was computational epidemiology. You had agent-based models, you had compartmental models, what you call Sear class models and all that. But ultimately, we were all trying to predict various things about COVID to help the health system with various capacity issues, choices about lockdowns, choices about public transportation, so on and so forth. It was a marvelous time in only one sense. Gun to our heads, researchers and implementers dropped everything and came together and were involved in this sort of iterative R&D and implementation at the same time. After COVID, that is if we are assuming we are after COVID now, very soon, as early as November 20, I was deeply involved in Mumbai's COVID response. Mumbai was India's sort of epicenter for COVID, right? But in November 2020, all this so I had people in the war room and all this stopped, and they said, you guys can now go home, right? We planned, we gave plaques, etc. Things to be celebrated. But you know what happened in April? We all lost family and friends to COVID. And I remember getting calls from Mumbai Municipal Commissioner's office saying, we want predictions. I was like, sorry, you can't like out of the blue pull predictions, can you? I mean, you want to be involved. We knew exactly, during the first wave, we knew exactly how to treat every spike or change in data that came along, right? One day there was 7,000 deaths reported. We knew that 7,000 deaths did not happen today. It's some sort of backlog. So we got involved in the whole system of how the data comes together, right? And that wasn't possible, and we were really searching for what do you do after COVID, right? This is the first, this is a picture from Bangalore. You see that? That's how early these COVID war rooms went up, right? And now there's a climate change coming in. This is another population level threat. These are not SORA images, these are not generative AI images. These are real images from Bangalore. That is our Nama Metro, Nama BMTC, I guess. And the cities and states are beginning to take proactive action in that they realize the importance of data. They are creating these things called integrated command and control centers. This one is from Bangalore. And they are bringing in various use cases. So we kind of asked the question, how do we take the pre-COVID and COVID experience of various things we have done on the data science front and really embed them into the systems? Not as a reactive crisis thing, but as second nature, everyday mechanisms of managing health at a population. Right? And the problem is this, right? All of you who have done data science work in industry or try to do any applications or actually any amount of research know that this is ultimately an iterative process. Okay. But implementation, the way they typically think is it's a linear process. Okay. This is very difficult to do because implementers are like, this is my plan for the year, this is my first quarter milestones, these are my second quarter milestones, so on and so forth. And if I say, oh, I'm going to do something and figure out whether it works. During COVID, we had license to do this because they had no option. But now we don't have that, right? So how do you do this? And researchers who are so engaged, they have to publish papers, right? That's what their main mandate is to push the boundary of science, right? Not necessarily have impact today. That's not how they're getting tenure. Maybe that's not their role, right? So we kind of asked, how do we make this happen? And we created this thing. This is a more a virtual notion as opposed to, we created this mechanism called Data Science Innovation Hub at our park. We said we will work with the system in an iterative manner in terms of both problems and solutions. And we will bring the right innovators to the table. This was funded by Rockefeller Foundation, continues to be funded by Rockefeller Foundation and Office of the PSA India. Does anyone know what One Health? Is anyone here working in what you call One Health? One Health concept is simple. COVID, Zika, Nipah, all these were zoonosis. Zoonosis means pathogens have jumped from animal ecosystems to human ecosystems. Now, the impact of climate change is that we are going to see 4,000 zoonoses in the next 50 years, right? So the likelihood of COVID-like events is very, very high, right? Just probabilities. Now, given that, by the time we have to poke things up our noses and test, it's kind of too late, right? We have to actually catch them and ideally catch them at the boundaries of the human-animal interfaces. And One Health approach is basically to build systems that cut across ecosystems, right? And there's a new national One Health mission that's just been announced in India, okay? And that's anchored at the office of PSA currently. And climate. So we said we are starting with dengue, which is a climate-sensitive endemic disease, not a special event like COVID. Dengue happens all the time, everywhere, in various places, and the health system continues to. You might say, dengue, what's the big deal? For you and I, it's no big deal. But imagine that person who is living at the boundary of, that poverty line, loss of 3 weeks of pay or 1 month of pay, or strength that you lose is essentially a difference between, survival and death. Their whole family's lives take a different trajectory if someone is sick for a month, right? So the result is, jumping ahead, we currently have this thing called AI Health and Climate Platform covering 80 million people across basically the state of Karnataka and Pune and Pimpri-Chinchwad together is another 20 million to 60 million. That's 80 million people, right? And what do? We actually give advanced outbreak predictions down to block level, sub-district or taluk, different, we use different terminology in different parts of the country, right? Now I'm not giving a number prediction, this is the other thing, right? If I were to be like very strict about it academically, right? You can question, and I'll say, yeah, these may not be perfect, but turns out they're already hugely useful. Why is it useful? Because now, as a system, I don't have to worry about doing everything in all the 200 blocks, right? I can at least pick, if this helps, if I just pick the reds and the oranges, 20 odd places, I know that I've covered 90% of my, problem areas. Right? And this turns out to be very useful. And we said we'll give a 4-week advance prediction. Right? Of course, there's technology at the heart of it, but the technology piece is one part of it. Right? All this would not, yes.
How good is the access to data to be able to make this? Can you get good data to drop in?
By the way, data sucks everywhere. We have access to data. Right? Dengue is underreported by probably 100-fold. Right? So I'm not trying to predict. And because of who we are, a non-profit organization based at IISc, so on and so forth. And because we have, not because we are sitting at IISc, because I have people. I hired the guy who led Bangalore's COVID war room onto my team. Right? So these are deep relationships, and hence we have access to that data. Not just that, working with them, we have started creating new proxies. For example, ASHA workers now use an app. They used to have to report stagnant water and larval breeding through some forms or the other. Now all they do is take a picture. Right? That's a signal. Right? We also work with IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, IIT, and the other IIT, Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, on climate modeling and those sort of things. And turns out temperature, vegetation, rainfall, these sort of things actually have a huge impact on dengue. Right? So yes, we have access to data. The data is not perfect, but still we are able to have a step change in the amount of benefit we can provide to the system, because that is helping them do resource allocation.
So there's a process you're able to standardize so that the non-uniformity of the others is minimized across blocks.
Yes, that's right. So we do that, and we are constant. So the big thing is actually we have to engage in how the data itself is coming, right? And that happens over time. Right? So what we have seen is you kind of have to engage in a certain way with the system, that you don't go and say, I have this solution, now you should adopt it. That's not the approach at all. Instead, we go and say, what problems do you need to solve? And hence, with them try and articulate what kind of solution may be good enough as a starting point and keep getting better. Right? That's the general approach. Right? So yes, we have data from multiple sources. We do various things. Sorry, some of these things did not copy well. But to me, the big success is the fact that various institutions. Now, how does this research happen? Because this is not plug and play products, right? We have actually built a small team. I often refer to them as junior surgeons under the guidance of senior surgeons, which are the researchers at multiple institutions. IIT Madras, IIIT Delhi, Ashoka University, Northeastern, so on and so forth. Computational epidemiology groups, all of them working with us, through us, because they are not going to come sit in government offices, etc., etc. And I'm not going to be able to just like that. I mean, this is not just black box ML, right? There's some statistical modeling, all this sort of stuff going on. So I need folks who can do that. And the best way to hire them is get these research groups to send them their graduating members to me, and they even interview and they are on the team, right? And these folks work closely with the folks embedded in the government systems, right? And this has been a huge thing. So what I want to highlight here is the AI bit is one small portion of this, right? It's part of some product. Usually solution being something that solves the problem, involves service and all the other things that I talked about, and they have to really be integrated into the programs and systems. Often, the biggest reason perhaps that generally technology-based solutions, you can replace AI with tech, is that lack of understanding of where exactly in the system this technology goes. Unless it is part of some system, it's not going to be used. It has to be part of their workflows, their way of these systems do their business, right?
So Raghu, in the case of dengue, for example, what is the primary input that you're getting into the system, and what's the intervention?
The primary inputs are actually reported dengue cases. Okay, are you talking about generally the data side? Yeah. So there's something called IDSP, Integrated Disease Surveillance platform program that the government has, into which dengue cases are reported, and that is one of the key data sources for us. But we also work with folks on the ground, medical officers, etc., who kind of tell us what is happening and things like that. We also have data coming from other sources, like I said, temperature, temperature, vegetation, rainfall, stagnant water reporting, things like that. These all are the inputs. What is the output? Output is basically at this point of time simply a probability of a certain, at least X percentage of spike relative to whatever the baseline used to be in that case. Right? That is basically what it is. It is hugely imperfect at this point of time. If I were to say, hey, have you been accurate, have you not been accurate, so on and so forth. But turns out it is already making a huge difference for these guys in terms of where they are able to pay attention. And
so the intervention is that
they take. So what are some of the things where they fall short? What happens when they get? If there are too many hospitalizations, they get surprised, right? The other thing is they don't know. They have this stagnant water. I mean, spraying doesn't work for dengue. Spraying is not the way. But you want to generally go after and remove stagnant water and that sort of stuff, right? And those sort of crews get sent out, right?
So you're deciding where to allocate the resources?
Yeah, it's resource allocation. Most importantly, the biggest resource actually here is managerial attention.
Oh.
Because from sitting in Bangalore, you're trying to manage the whole state, right? Yes, you tell, but ultimately things get done where there is attention, right? And the managerial attention is basically the most scarce resource we are helping out.
And they have to go to that location and then dry up the...
You call a doctor.
No, just call, just say, what are you doing? I'm coming in for inspection day after tomorrow. Make sure you have XYZ things ready. Right? It seems very trivial because these things don't happen, right? It's a classic challenge. So
the data collection, like for each hospital, they have the application and they are all logging in, or
yeah,
how
if
is it?
there are dengue cases, they're supposed to report it.
But like every hospital has that system.
Yeah, it's a reportable disease into the health system. So even if you are a private hospital, if it's a confirmed dengue case, you're supposed to enter into the system, log into the system.
Just curious, do you run into any political or other pressures saying, hey, how can my area be red or something? Do you get any pushback?
Oh yeah, this is there, but the thing is, that's why you need to work both at the top level as well as the bottom level, right? If all I am doing is, hey, you have cases, why aren't you doing something about it? That's not very useful, right? But if we help the system and say, okay, looks like there's a high likelihood of cases, there is not a place that typically sees dengue outbreaks, so be prepared, send a crew, send some officer who knows how to deal with these outbreaks or take preemptive action. That's appreciated, right? And if I say all this is open data and I'm going to do it as this thing, right? I'll put it up there. It will be a total non-starter.
Okay.
It will be a total non-starter because no one wants the attention. And usually, just the glaring light of media attention is usually not helpful.
Yeah.
Right? Ankit had his hand up, and I'll come back.
How do you integrate your system of reporting into these current hospitals? Because that's something I've faced as a challenge before. Their hesitation to adopt a new set of reporting standards.
Yeah, so I'm not increasing new reporting. I'm using whatever reporting already exists.
Got it.
Right? And we are just consuming that data.
Okay, so like a pipeline from their reporting
exactly.
system.
I'm just consuming that data, and we are working with them to automate these things. For example, right now, I can't show it to you here, but it's actually updated every day automatically now.
And so since on a government level, so they agree to even send the data, right?
Yeah, by the way, there is no sending the data. It is us going there. That's how they have to see it.
Got it.
Sure, I'm using the data sitting at ISC, etc. But we have people sitting in their offices.
That makes sense.
Right?
In the districts and the blocks.
No, districts and the blocks are reporting into a system already. Right? But the IDSP, why am I getting IDSP data? I'm getting IDSP data because we are sitting with them in the, with the government of Karnataka, public health system.
See, that's what I was trying to ask, like the validity of the data itself, right?
Yeah.
And from multiple sources, how we are getting it, so that validation is also done, right?
Yeah, so, by the way, I told you upfront, we know dengue data is underreported by 100x. Right? So I'm not trying to predict the number of dengue cases. Actually, that's not a very useful prediction as it turns out. They need to know how many serious cases am I likely to see. Typically, those are the ones that actually get logged into the system. Right? So that it turns out to be good enough. Right? And we are still in early stages. This is the other thing, right? How many years before your startup start making profits? We fund these things forever, right? And the lack of patience with some of these things is actually astounding to me. Right? This is the first year. Even with our funders, I keep telling you, look, we have run an amazing first lab. Right? That's all we have done. We have showed that we can consume data from multiple sources. We have shown that we can give useful predictions. We have shown that actions will be taken on those useful predictions. And we have shown that willingness of government to actually work with these folks. These are all useful proof points. Right? Now we have to keep working and adding more and more things to that engine. Right? We essentially have, created the most useful thing is creating that engine. Right? Of working closely with folks who are outside of the government system in feeding the problems and being engaged in the iterative innovation implementation. And that's a useful mechanism.
So one question I had is, see when AI first came, Salman Khan, he made a user case and then he made a tutor case. So like that, is there like a doctor co-pilot?
Yeah.
That is there for the Indian context, for is one of the IITs or IISc working on a doctor's co-pilot to help in this peer-to-peer engagement, so that, like, let's say a doctor who speaks to patient in, say, Kannada, patient is talking, so the AI understands it and then is able to then produce a response. So that's
these are at very early stages. Various experiments are going on. I'll come to that a little bit later, because essentially you're talking about what you call these decision support systems that are running. I mean, what you said reminds me of Babylon, that was built out. Anyone knows Babylon?
From UK?
Yeah, UK, right? They actually had the system. So what you'll see is a patient comes online, and the doctor is talking to the patient. And as the patient is talking, this live transcription, picking up of keywords, and then suggestions to the doctor regarding what other questions and things should be tested, the co-pilot experience, right? So there are a lot of these things that are out there, but Indian languages, accents, the challenges, connectivity, there are lots of issues. Also the issue of regulation and what are okay to this thing. So experiments are underway, but nothing that we say, and I think India will not be a place where one solution solves everything. Let me jump ahead. Does anyone know what what are you looking at? What is this sheet that you're looking at?
Birth weights?
Birth weight. Sorry, I didn't take your question. Anything that...
So my question was about the previous diagram. So how do you ensure that things go beyond like pilot and sustain? Then like the context.
Good question, right? We are working with the system from day one. I'm not sitting at ISC and doing some interesting data science. That's not what I'm doing. The whole premise of the project is the impact. And the problem and the whole system lives, the whole thing we built lives inside. So it's a scaled system that from day one we are working. I did not say, let me look for adoption of this customer, this customer, this customer. Why are we already covering a population of 80 million people? Right? It's a geography and it's the health system that are covering this. So that's the way we work. Sorry, so yeah, these are birth weights. Anything odd about the birth weights?
Very regular numbers.
Yeah, if you believe this, babies in India are born exactly at 2 kgs, 2.5 kgs, 3 kgs. It's as if someone is putting a round up or a round formula, right? So I'll tell you why that happens. Let me see if this is going to. Okay, so let's see. I'm using Mac for the first time today. I'm trying to get a video going, which you can help. I'm trying to exit. Do you know what is happening here? Weighing a baby using a spring balance. Yeah. Have you ever tried to hold a 3 kg wiggling thing with one hand? And you see, and lift off, and she's looking up at it from sitting here, parallax error, right? So no wonder she says, why were 4 out of the 6 numbers 2.5 kgs?
Those are the trains to it.
Huh?
Somewhere between 2 and
That's the least count of the scale.
Huh? No.
Resolution.
Hey.
maybe only 2 in order to.
Maybe the height of that lady.
Two is the lowest. It's swinging between 2 and 3.
Think human incentives. Did we want to report COVID positive cases?
Yeah.
No. 2.5 kgs is the cutoff for low birth weight. Right? To be reported into the system as a high risk baby, essentially. And hence there will be more scrutiny about all the stuff that has to happen for that baby. Right? This is an ASHA worker. This woman is an ASHA worker. How many of you are familiar with the ASHA worker system in India? Right? There are 1 million of them. We launched this program something in 2006 or 16. I keep getting confused. Six I think, right? So they're supposed to visit homes after babies are born. Day 3 after birth, 5, 7, 14, 28, 42. Right? And ensure that various things are happening, including vaccinations, and if the baby is not doing well, refer the baby back to center and all that sort of stuff, right? And they get dinged, in some sense, if things are not happening properly for that baby or the baby doesn't do well. So, best thing, let's not report it. Right? And all this obviously is updated in dashboards. There's a data entry operator, I have a video of that too, who will enter that data approximately 1 month later. 2 months later, they will find out that such and such things are missing. And then there's this guy is looking at forms such as that, if he's lucky, to look at data. By this time, whatever had to happen to that baby has happened, and probably the ones that require, this is a theme, right? We try to do everything everywhere and miss out the places where we need to prioritize. Right? This is generally a theme in our health systems, right? Here again, if we could prioritize the lowest birth weight babies in some ground truth manner that cannot be fudged, this would be useful. So, okay, now I need to. Sorry, I'm using Mac for the first time. So much for AI and robotics technology. Are many, right? I took a video article, it was not playing. Well, so too many low birth weight babies missed, supply chain issues, cultural taboos, misreported is a nice way to put it, right? But at the end of the day, unverified. We said, could we do this? And turns out they don't forget their phones. They say we can forget our spring balances, or they don't work, but they don't forget their phones. And we said, could we actually simply measure, do a 3D? So this is a 3D estimation of the 3D shape of a baby. Turns out roughly all babies are similar density. So if you have volume, you have weight.
This is a Vardhani AI project. Right?
Yeah, this was Vardhani. This was the first project I started at Vardhani AI along with Raghu, if you know any of you.
Alex.
Right? This came out of our experience of having been on the field quite a bit for our previous social enterprise embrace. Right? So actually, and this is actually I'm crediting Raghu here for a framework we've created together. Often we say, hey, what are the questions to ask? Now it looks like AI is like this hammer looking for nails everywhere, right? So first, is it really a big problem? And I'm not talking about this big problem of low birth weight babies in India. I'm talking about the specific problem of weighing babies, right? And reporting it accurately into the system so that appropriate actions can be taken. Is AI feasible? Is AI much better? There are lots of things that you could do here, right? You could have digital weighing machines. People have sent out digital spring balances, right? Why didn't we say that was good enough?
It's expensive.
It doesn't solve the concern.
Still, it's dense. Let's say it is Bluetooth. Then Bluetooth into her phone to report weight. Then it can sync up at later time and all that.
If you have budget for that, that should work.
No, turns out simply because you have digital weighing machine doesn't mean they are calibrated. Right? And they keep breaking, etc., etc., etc. Right? So really ask whether AI is the right way to do it. There may be simpler ways to do it. And often there are systems view. Right? Systems view is like, okay, it's fair for you to totally ask right now. Okay, you have identified these low birth weight babies. So what question? Right? This is endemic in our systems, right? I diagnose this person with something. Am I able to provide treatment? We won't be able to solve the whole cascade of challenges always, but it is useful to take a well-informed view on where the boundaries of your particular solution or intervention are going to end, right? And usually we have to go beyond the AI bit. We have to fix the data issues, we have to work with the system, so on and so forth, right? Stakeholders. Again, chooser, payer, user, beneficiary. Beneficiary is the baby, the mother. User was that ASHA worker. Payer could be some philanthropy or government. Chooser is layers of government and various organizations that have to say, this particular thing is actually acceptable. Data, does it exist or can it be collected with acceptable cost? Here all the innovation was paid for by philanthropy, right? And that's the case with all AI-based innovations. Government doesn't know how to pay for innovation. Right? Partner organizations, this co-creation piloting is not possible without field organizations that we work with. And the question you were asking was the scaling. So we try to ask those questions upfront, as opposed to saying, I have this wonderful thing, no one wants to do anything. Right?
One question, sir. You're saying you're targeting skill right from the beginning, but sometimes you want to try something to see if it works, right? So how do you do that?
Yeah, that is where the partner organizations with whom you co-create and pilot become important. Often, for example, we work with non-profit organizations that work with government systems. Right? We won't be doing everything everywhere, right? But they help us collect the data, pilot this thing. For example, simple things. You might think taking a video of a baby is such a simple thing. Can you guess the sort of things that have happened when you take a video of a baby?
Bad lighting.
What happens if head gets cut off? Yeah. You can't reconstruct the baby, right? So simple UI tests. Right? Usually this is the other challenge, right? We have this sense that we have to figure out everything and then we'll go deploy it and scale, right? So this iterative co-creation and mechanisms of doing that is a key element of everything we have to do. Not just in this, even in that dengue model that I talked about, etc., etc. Right? You need safe ways to try stuff without harming people, right? And that's a key element of it.
So in getting this data, I was wondering, especially in rural or government hospitals, do you hear, ASHA workers help out? How are you able to get the additional manpower to funnel the data into the systems you need?
I'm here hoping one of you will connect me to some donors, so on and so forth, right? So this is philanthropy driven, right? And ASHA workers can't do anything without explicit permissions and onboarding them into projects. So we work with government of Telangana, for example, in this case, right? With anyone know Nilofer Hospital in Hyderabad? It's a huge volume hospital, right? And that's how we collected our initial data sets through proper IRB process, right? Ethics committees and all that, partnership with government of Telangana, so on and so forth, to actually have hospital-based data first for our initial models. Once we got a certain accuracy and we said, okay, looks like we can actually do this sort of thing, then we went into field settings.
But what did you do in Nilofer? It was the low-weight babies?
Yeah, all weight babies, not just low weight babies.
Yeah.
And why Nilofer? Because if I truly went to the field, the number of very low birth weight babies is going to be, very low birth weight babies is less than 1.8. Very few of them are going to be there. Low birth weight babies, as it is, generally will be fewer, roughly 20% of all babies, if 20 to 25%. But you need to over-represent some of these classes for your algorithms to learn well. So you go to a facility like Nilofer that sees lots of referral babies and hence lots of tiny babies, right? That was the reason we started at Nilofer. And of course, then we got onto the field, so on. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned cultural taboos with checking the weight. Are mothers allowing this photo video taking of their newborns?
Yeah, actually this is an excellent question, right? This is an excellent question. We have to explain to the mothers that this is not something that just stays on the cloud, etc., etc. This is being, and we were working on algorithms that model compression so that these things can actually be work on the edge, right? But that's an excellent question. Actually, in many cultures, you can't touch the baby before this thing. But ASHA workers have a bit of a privileged place now. They are well embedded into the systems. They're usually from the same village, right? So that's who we work through. So now let me come to, I'll just wrap up with a couple of examples. So earlier I was talking about representative data sets. This is a big challenge. We talk about AI as being an important tool to fill that skill and infrastructure gap at the front lines. But without the system's ability to validate these tools, there's not going to be any adoption, right? And who is the system? Often the question to ask is who, and if you say in health in India, if you just think centrally, there's a national health mission that is a health services provider organization under the health ministry. There's National Health Authority or PMJ, which is basically the insurance, right? Then there is CDSCO, which is like your FDA regulatory body, right? Then there is ICMR, which is like your NIH here, right? So it's very important to ask who do you work with to solve a certain problem, whose problem is it to solve? It's not IISc's problem, right? It's not a particular startup's problem, it's not a non-profit's problem, right? If you are building systems for the country, you have to work with the systems owners. So it turns out ICMR was the right entity to do this because all the medical research institutions report into them, right? And they have the mindset and know-how of how to run clinical trials to collect good data, right? So we worked with ICMR to create this initiative called Midas India. Again, whose initiative is Midas India? It is ICMR's initiative, right? In partnership with ISC, and ArtPark is the technology platform and program management partner, right? What does that mean? It actually means we do lots of the dirty, heavy lifting work that researchers don't have the time to do, right? I'll give you an example of why this is important. Right? Any of you familiar with TB, tuberculosis, and various uses of X-rays for TB? Right? Anyone familiar with the TB cascade of care, so to say here? Where do we miss most TB? Why is TB not solved? Let me ask this way. Why does India still have 1/4 of world's TB burden? By the way, TB is the largest infectious disease killer, even more than HIV and malaria and all the other infectious diseases combined together. For a brief blip in history, COVID surpassed it for a year, but that's about it. Right? TB is. So, please. You going to say something? No.
I think we all get that man-2 test and it's always positive.
So we are latent TB. We all have latent TB. Right? That's why that turns out to be positive. Right?
So at the next level, how do you...
Even active TB, not latent TB, even active TB, what happens is the place where we miss most of the things is they don't even get into the treatment funnel. They don't get detected. Right? At one point of time, we used to call it the missing million, right? Because by all numbers, if you run the numbers, you should have X number of TB cases reported, but it was always X minus 1 that was reported. So where are these 1 million other TB patients that should actually be in the treatment funnel, right? And the key reason that is missed is because screening at the front lines and community levels is very difficult, right? So we came up with, it used to be sputum microscopy, where you cough up sputum and microscope, etc. It has many modes of failure. Then it became a nucleic acid amplification test, NAT, TrueNAT, CBNAT, if you folks have heard about these sort of tests. But there are only so many machines of those, even for that you need sputums. So X-rays is most widely available. So folks, for many years ago, built X-ray algorithms, right, to screen for TB. But turns out there are many different uses. Screening for TB in community setting means you are trying to catch a few positive cases. In a community setting, number of positive cases will be very few. And they probably, many of them might be pre-symptomatic, right? And hence, what that X-ray looks like would perhaps be different from what a later stage TB of someone who is showing up at a facility with symptoms already showing up will. And if you collect a data set here versus data set here, obviously those data sets are going to look different in the constitution of the overall data set. What we said is we are working with this, and clinicians, doctors don't think like this. This is how folks who may have some, I'm not an AI scientist or data scientist at all, but this is stuff that I've learned that, okay, you need to represent all the various classes properly, so on and so forth. So we work with the system to actually articulate the design of the data sets, the inclusion-exclusion criteria, so on and so forth. Work backwards and say, this is hence what benchmark data sets need to be. Right? And in fact, we took them from thinking of data sets as static bottle of water. That water can be used for flushing toilet or IV fluids. Right? So similarly, data has multiple uses. And the filtration mechanism, the collection points, the filtration mechanisms, all that has to be different. So we are creating this system and also basically opening up these underlying standards for these data sets, right? And we are creating this system. That's what Midas India is. These are some of the institutions that are already coming on board as hubs. These are some disease areas, right? And this is an example of very unglamorous, so a lot of AI is about, oh, we can take this and predict this, right? But that's not what this is. This is more of a horizontal system. That is disease or specific use case agnostic, but we as a country need this system for us to be able to develop and validate these sort of solutions, right? And this is not data that, and I would say the most forward-thinking part of this is ICMR is actually going to fund data collection for the sake of making it available. The typical pathway of data is some researcher doing a study, and until they publish, it doesn't come out. If you are lucky, it will come out then.
Can you give an example of the type of data?
This, for example, I just used X-rays for TB, right? But it would also have other ground truthing, other demographics, so on and so forth. So in fact, we are working with expert companies for each of these to say what data is required for key challenges. In oral cancer, we are looking at mobile-based screening of the oral cavity to find early stage precancerous lesions. Right? These are the sort of things we are
So
doing.
you need like an Aadhaar ID and then a whole bunch of.
We won't get any other ID. This is de-identified data. Let's be very clear. This is data collected in a prospective study mode or a retrospective study mode that is ground truth and hence accurate enough and complete enough to have other meaningful metadata as part of it.
So the focus is on the quantity here.
Focus is on the quality.
But like because you don't identify with any person, you just see how many cases are there.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah,
Like
that's
the
right.
primary
So,
quantity of that, yeah.
yes, that's right. I don't need to know. I may have something that says, I need these age group characteristics, these characteristics based on sex, these characteristics based on some other maybe specific lung pathology we want to make sure is whatever, right, in terms of distribution. But we won't be able to identify individuals, right? But
Because
this
your
sort of
focus is
and
on-
where is it collected, what device was it collected with, so on and so forth are also important parts of the metadata.
I'm aware of this company called Cure AI.
Yes, of course.
They seem to be talking a lot about TB and...
Yeah, but so by the way, QAI was my inspiration to try and do this.
Oh.
QAI, because QAI, they had their algorithms, if you talk to Prashant, they were ready in 2018. Right? In fact, I remember starting sitting down with QAI and choosing not to do X-ray stuff because it seemed like it was a solved problem. Right? But many years later, it's still not widely used. Why is it widely not used? As recently as last December, these algorithm folks, folks who have developed these things are knocking on ICMR door saying, hey, help validate this thing. We need this system.
Is this data publicly available? Is it under some contract?
Yeah. So the way, by the way, this system is being built, it's not yet out there. But the way this is imagined is that data is discoverable and you can seek access to it by submitting certain credentials. That's the way it is. And in fact, we are not looking to centralize data in one place. Once you search for the data, 3 different spokes may be holding those sub-data sets against that particular spec or data standard. Right? And you'll be able to seek access to all 3 of them. In the future, we hope we will even add like payments layer and things like that. So if some hospital wants to say, okay, in my case you have to pay because it's of some higher quality or something, you'll be able to.
Because during COVID times, like Rukmini S in her book, 4 Numbers and Half, talks about difficulty to get the data. Right?
Yeah. See, here's what I've learned, right? We can be outside the system. The government officers are under tremendous pressure. They're glaring media, social media lights on them all the time, right? Most of them want to do the right things. But someone needs to have their backs. It's not theirs to just put it out there. Right? Now, in this context, what can you do? You can be on the outside and say, oh, you haven't. Or you go inside and solve the problem. So the particular lesson I've had through my journey is that if you are inside and become one of the people who will roll up your sleeves, and work with them in the muck to deal with it in some way, they're happy to work with you. But you have to go inside the system and work with them. And as we have shown in...
So when you say inside the system, you mean that which organization are you talking about?
Whichever organization owns the system.
That's collecting the data.
Yeah, collecting the data, owns the data, whoever is involved, right? So like here I'm working with ICMR and all the medical research organizations. Earlier I talked about Government of Karnataka and Bangalore Municipal Corporation or BBMP, Bangalore Mahanagarspalte, right? Whoever that is. You go inside and you affect change. You have to affect change from the inside, right? That's the general mindset and principle.
Yeah, so you said it's de-identified data. How do you make sure it's not duplicated? What's identified?
So see, right now all this is happening in a study mode, right? This is not just like that. I'm not hooking up an EHR data, this thing, and sucking up all the data. That's not what I'm doing. Right? ABDM is providing a broad structure to how the data is captured and how it is shared, so on and so forth. And I say this as it's giving some high-level structure to all the rivers and lakes. What we have is a little pump next to every river and lake. And that little bit that we take out, we ensure it is proper. We are not trying to clean up everything. And because of this additional attention and funding given specifically for data collection, we will be able to ensure this. And we will actually have to provide them tools and a stack of things in terms of ensuring, anonymization and catching duplicates and all this sort of stuff. Right? And all this we are trying to do this in an open source mindset and a modular mindset. Not force people to use our entire stack, nor do we want to become captive owners of a system that no one else wants to pick up.
Are you satisfied that this work that you are doing will go on in perpetuity?
I have no, I wish someone could give me that, I could do that. So we do what we can, right? But how do we ensure? Addressing your question. In fact, one of our core principles, I think I used to have a slide that says anti-obsolescence.
Anti-what?
I do not want this to become obsolete.
Okay.
Right? How do you ensure? You have to think, there's how you build the technology element of it, but also how you institutionalize it.
Right.
Right? This is right now a program that has 3 years of funding.
Okay.
That is as far as you're going to be able to get in terms of advanced budget allocation.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll make enough of a dent that we'll get champions to continue to do this. Right? There are also other things. So I didn't realize there would be so much interest in this. I have a lot of slides about this topic, but now let us say all this is ICMR funding certain government organizations. You're not seeing any private organizations here. But who have been the organizations at the forefront of actually collecting data for AI? It's mostly private organizations, usually in partnership with some startup or the other, such as Cure AI that you mentioned, right? So for example, Vedanta in Delhi, for example, Cure AI works with that, right? Similarly. So what we have done is actually we are saying we are creating this stack of, in terms of technology platform and tools, etc. But this is just one instance of that. Also, we are bringing private organizations on as what we call honorary hubs, exemplar institutions with experience of creating good data. And we have brought them into this, co-opted them into this. But tomorrow ICMR stops funding, right? As long as we have some core nucleus of data already coming into this, hopefully we have created a movement. Apollo might decide to charge money for the data, that's fine, but that still is good data that adheres to certain standards that has been accepted by some national level technical committee in some peer review manner, right? That is already a win, right? And hopefully, so we are creating these parallel mechanisms with this at the same time as we are building this for ICMR. So these are all the various ways in which we are thinking deeply about how do we ensure that sustainability.
So for a project such as this, I imagine you would frame it in conversations with ICMR, but who makes the first pitch? Do you go and tell them what you think they should be doing, or do they come to you and ask for help?
So this is where I think being at an institution like IITM or IISc really helps, right? Because these tend to be the places where you get asked for help, right? As Art Park, I knew this problem deeply. So when they came and said, let's do gold standard data sets, etc., I jumped at it, and essentially we ended up writing all the proposals, etc., for it sitting from the inside.
So you didn't have to convince them?
I and my team, I did not have to convince them, but I had to convince them on the approach and the philosophy and so on and so forth. Those I have to constantly work with them, right? And I have to constantly explain to new players that come into the system, right? So that happens. But I have the privilege of having been there. I have the privilege of being a logo next to ICMR and IISc, right? And that is what allows us to, for valid and invalid reasons, we are trusted, right? And we are in there working with them, trying to make this happen, right? I'll quickly touch on last example, and I want to, by the way, Nalin, someone tell me if I'm going too slow. I should look to wrap up in 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
So we have the room till 8:30.
Okay.
Okay.
So
The idea
as long
is,
as the discussion is there.
yeah, let the
as long as
discussion
there
go.
is
No,
engagement, so-
yeah, as long as people want to ask questions, I think we got a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So just one final thought I will say. One of the key things, by the way, in terms of, I don't like the word influencing, but I don't like the word educating also, because it has a very condescending sense, right?
Empowering might be better.
Yeah. No, a key element of evolution of thought, let me put it this way, is this use case centered data sets, right? Because I think the world has been in this place that, oh, let's get all the data we can and we'll do wonderful things out of it. We haven't necessarily succeeded there for many reasons. If you have just EHR data that comes in regularly, it is not complete for many reasons, right? It is not accurate for many reasons, right? Insurance, trying to get insurance might be one of those reasons. So, and at the same time, not just any data can be used for any purpose. So, purpose-driven data sets as a core principle was a thing that we had to work with key stakeholders on for them to buy into it. And I'm not even 100% sure they get it and they fully bought into it. Right? We'll have to continue to do that, but that's a core principle we have established. We have created a technical expert company. It's not Raghu saying it, it's this technical expert company that said it. So on and so forth. And we ensure that those technical expert companies are not just clinicians and not just public health folks, but they're also folks from data science and AI and also engineering side who have experience with standards and engineering these systems. Right? And that, it's a certain way of working with doing all the work and finally putting their stamp that gives them the ownership. And I think that's a core element of the approach, right? And we should be willing to be in the background.
So this technical committee is a pan-India committee? Or
yes.
Part of just our park?
No, not at all. Right? No one from Art Park is on this committee. Right? There are folks from CMC Vellore, there are folks from IIIT Delhi, right? There are folks from, there's an organization called Trilegal, if anyone knows Rahul Mathan, one of the foremost legal experts on data privacy and so on and so forth in India, right? So we brought together really some of the best folks we can find and put them on this committee, right? Because we've had the privilege to do that, and it would be remiss if we we would be missing an opportunity if we just let that committee be. By the way, this doesn't happen because folks don't want to do it the right way. Often it's just missing voices and missing knowledge. These are unknown unknowns for, just like a lot of clinical stuff would be unknown to me. A lot of the data science way of thinking is unknown to doctors. It's simply that. And what we are only trying to do is trying to bring the right expertise in the table so that they can together make choices for this.
Who appoints the committee?
Huh?
Who appoints the committee? Is there a committee to appoint the committee?
You are learning quickly how these things happen. So there was a steering committee for the whole effort, right? That has to approve. But look, folks are not trying to get in your way. If you're doing good work, people tend to let you do good work. Just don't screw it up, give them credit, right? And don't run away with something without running it by them, right? So no, that's all it is.
I legit wasn't trying to make a joke.
No, I know.
Is it Art Park who gets to say who should be invited?
No, we get to nominate, right? We get to nominate. That's what we can do.
As well as
yeah, and obviously we have to justify, right? See, by the way, I have to really hats off to ICMR and also, the ISC professors that I know, Professor Devnath Pal, Professor Rajesh Sundaresan, right? These are a couple of people. In fact, by the way, I spoke with Ravi Balaram at IIT Madras to see how we can collaborate on these things, and these things will happen, right? So these are folks folks at all these institutions are trying to do the right thing. It just is very complicated to do the right thing. All we are doing is bring the right information and works at right point of time because they simply don't have the bandwidth or know, right? Rahul Mathan would have been in that room, but for the fact that we went and sought him, right? And because we knew him through personal connections and professional advisors. So this, of course, how could I not talk about LLMs and generative AI in this moment, right? You would all be like, who is this guy? He came under, he just emerged from under a rock, has not talked about Gen AI, right? if you noticed in that initial cartoon that I had, language was the first thing. Language was not a thing that typically health folks thought about, right? Maybe some of you in the Bay Area did, but not in the public health system, even though that was the first point of failure for many services, right? So it was very exciting when all this LLM stuff happened, because now suddenly seemed like a zillion use cases that we imagined seemed like now possible, right? But it's not been that easy. We are working with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation ran something called Global Grand Challenge on Ethical AI. Happy to say we are a double winner of this. And in both cases, we are really the organization behind building the LLM stuff, etc., working closely with non-profit or social enterprise partners who are actually the ones embedded on the ground and working with the systems, right? But it takes a certain mindset. I think we have been a very productive partner, because we don't simply come to the table and say, let us do the AI and go, right? What we did in this particular case was, they said we want to do decision support. Sorry, I just lost Srinivas, just as I was about to talk about the thing that we wanted to talk about, right? They said, let's do decision support. We said, no, technology is not there yet. Decision support is a very high risk case, because you're essentially intervening in the treatment journey of a particular patient. We are not there yet. So we walked them back, and they wanted to do this for the high risk pregnancy program with the ASHA and A&M system. Anyone know what who A&Ms are? Auxiliary nurse midwives, there are 250,000 of them. They oversee the ASHA workers. They are the nurses actually who provide, in more tricky situations such as high risk pregnancies, advice and action, right? So in these folks, we realized by engaging deeply again, not simply doing the AI bit because we were asked to do the AI bit, we realized that what was happening was, while decision support is very difficult and tricky, these people, whenever there is high risk pregnancies or actually any pregnancy, they tend to send a lot of questions to the doctors or medical officers. And the medical officers are overwhelmed with questions that today, we all know LLMs should be able to answer very easily. Right? So we said, let's start with really unstructured FAQ or information seeking, right, as a first use case. And over time, we will work towards a decision making. This is often, this sort of thoughtfulness I often find lacking on behalf of technologists. Because we are in a hurry to build technology, right? So we are a winner along with Arman. Arman is, and this system again is actually, there are various mobile health systems as part of the national health mission. And Arman is a non-profit that essentially is like a custodian of some of these systems, and hence we are working with it. So the scale bit, right, is if we do this well, the scale bit is a given. Right? But any Telugu speakers here? Okay, so please read. Can anyone explain what is happening here? These are sample messages that they ask and questions that they ask.
The patients ask?
No, this is the ANMs are asking the medical officer to help them manage some pregnancy or the other, right? Some questions are being asked. Look at these spellings. Good afternoon, sir. RBS level normal guy, enta undavi. It is not entaha undavi, right? And what is happening here is there's typos all the way around. I mean, there's typos in Telugu, there's typos in Telugu, English in Telugu. Right? There are queries that come as mixed audio text queries. It's an absolute nightmare, right? What do you think will happen if you use GPT-4 for this?
Hallucination.
Well, it might misinterpret some words.
It might. So we are actually working very closely. We have to build a certain type of data sets for this, right? This is more narrow. We are not going to try to do everything. We are not going to be able to answer all health queries, but maybe we can figure out a strategy in which to ultimately arrive at a solution that answers a relatively broad enough but still very narrow set of questions, recognizes, especially when something are out of domain, says so, right? And when it's not confident, hopefully will refer it up to the medical officer instead of simply trying to answer and give some hallucination or something like that, right? There is also another element, right? If you think of spoken language, whole typing thing, as you see, what the big takeaway from this is, well, by the way, there are lots of things here we learned through, before we built AI, we actually did Wizard of Oz experiments. Anyone know what Wizard of Oz experiments are? It's essentially someone pretending like the AI, right? And responding, right? And Wizard of Oz experiments are useful to understand user behavior, right? Before you actually go do the fancy AI and then realize that it doesn't still matter, right? And also to learn the sort of things you might encounter, right? As tech companies, as startups, we know how to do this. We do this all the time. User tests, user experience research, and all that sort of stuff, right? So, sorry?
They didn't do it for Gemini, I guess.
Yeah. So this helped us. One of the things this really made us clear is typing is just an unnatural sort of thing, human behavior. Just not to expect. Voice is really where it needs to be, but to do voice. Anyone, kos par badre pani, char kos par bani. Language changes continuously in India, right? And right now, if you say 15 or 22 languages, it's kind of a even politically wrong thing to say. Right? Because who are you to say that I'm a dialect of your language or your version of the language? Right? What is the standard version of, what is the flag-bearing standard version of Tamil? I'm probably going to cause a mini fight right here. Right? So the idea is to really just capture the diversity of the language as opposed to say this is this dialect, this is that dialect. And the way we are doing that is AI for Bharat is obviously one amazing initiative that is happening out of IIT Madras. Bhasha Setu is the name we have given to our umbrella of language initiatives. These are perhaps actually, these may actually be the largest, together at least largest open source data initiatives in India, currently spanning 200 districts. So this is true spoken language, not read. There is also all types of data we collect. There's scripted and read out stuff, but there's also unscripted through various prompts. People speak to it in whatever it is. Prasanta can give like an 8-hour lecture and maybe cry for as many hours. We talk about what we have learned through this. It's amazing. Like simple things like, let's say I word like ocean. What did I say?
Ocean.
Huh?
Ocean. Ocean.
You said Aushad, he said Oshad. Both are valid. But what did I say? What is the guy who is transcribing supposed to write as ground truth? So it turns out this is very non-trivial, language data collection and doing this. So we actually have people from that district listening and transcribing, right? Because who is to say who is to certify that that is local? Only locals can. It is local when enough locals say it is local. Right? So this is amazing experience. So we are doing both broad data collection as well as application centered work that I talked about.
So just a quick question, like how does it differ from the AA for Bharat? Like, is it in terms of the type of data or?
Yeah, see, they are doing various types of data collection. We are also doing various types of data collection. In fact, recently we got to there, started asking what are the synergies and we can learn from each other and bring these data sets together. And so we are going to open source all this through what's called Bashni under Ministry of Electronics and IT. Right? So yeah, I'm happy to follow up and talk specifically about various types of data sets that AI for Bharat is collecting versus various types of data we are collecting. And obviously the question now we are asking is, as we go from 200 districts to all the remaining 573 remaining districts, there are 773 districts in India, right? What is the right data? How do we create feedback loops between the use cases and the data we are collecting? Because who is to say this data is good enough? We know the proof's in the pudding, right? Does it actually improve performance for some use cases? Right? That's where it is. And that has to just loop back into the data collection efforts, right? This is essentially the blue underline indicates essentially where our current work is. That current work up there is a bug. Right? And this is the whole idea, that health data thing that I talked about, that's digital public infrastructure. Here what we are talking about is again digital public infrastructure and digital public goods. Right? I'll just end with this slide. See, so if you were to ask me, hey, if you try to articulate what we need to do, what does it really take? It requires system vision, at the same time user-centered design. When there is somewhat of a systems vision but not good user centricity, you get things that are that sound amazing centrally and in boardrooms but don't work on the ground. Right? So you need both approaches, and that's really very difficult to do at one shot in a waterfall model. So you need an iterative co-innovation, co-implementation approach, like the ones I talked about with respect to the One Health and pandemic prevention work. Then open innovation ecosystems. And I put open in closed parentheses because open often is a very tough starting point. You need to start somewhere. It's open enough to enough stakeholders to come and innovate. That's already useful, right? And to do all this, what is our biggest challenge? Talent. If I were to say this term, and this is, we need interdisciplinary innovation teams and also interdisciplinary individuals. And the way I explain interdisciplinary individuals is like, let's say he speaks French and he speaks Telugu, right? You put them on the same team. Is the team now an interdisciplinary team that can speak both languages? No, he doesn't know French, he doesn't know, he doesn't know Telugu, right? Or whatever. So a large effort actually goes in people who have the data science type backgrounds but also have spent time in policy or experience, etc. Right? Just the AI talent has become very expensive for us, right? And a large part of doing this is to get you folks involved as, you know, champions, advocates, even volunteers in some of this work to bring the cutting edge that you have experience of here in the Silicon Valley to this, so that we are not rediscovering it. Right? I'll come to you just a second. Mindsets, this is extremely important. Right? This holistic ownership. It's not good enough to say we do AI. Right? We can do a lot of such AI. Right? We have to own the whole problem, and it requires mechanisms such as the ones that I described to have these sandboxes, partnerships, and actually be able to scale it. A big part of all this is also shared resources and DPI, right? Of course, data we talked about, but the tools, the models, compute, right? It's a huge challenge. Government is trying to bring resources together, but let's see how much happens. And just to, for example, just to give you an example, we have right now not a whole lot, just 25 terabytes of data. But if you were to really put this on back and let people download it, the transfer costs are going to blow this budget out of proportion. Right? So we need to actually work with the likes of AWS, Google, etc., create multiple instances of this data and have ways, because ultimately people are using those tools to do the learning also. But this is all very complicated policy territory, as you can imagine. So we are actually working with Bhashini in figuring the framework for even open sourcing this data from both legal and financial perspectives. Right? And yeah, any donations of tools, talent, compute, I will. With that, I end the talk. And any questions, I'm happy to. Of course, questions. Sorry.
No. I was just holding this question. So my question was on, this is like a startup, literally a startup, and it all comes down to
You're a startup doing multiple startups.
Right. So execution and talent, right? So on talent, you noted that firstly you're based out of Bangalore. Now all the MNCs are fighting for resources there, and the inflation is so high and it goes up. So how are you able to so what is the ground story on talent? What kind of people are getting attracted? And once they get attracted, the moment you know A, B of data science, you have offers coming in like crazy. It's like a jumping board.
You're describing the reality. I don't have to impart any new wisdom here. You are describing the reality.
I'm facing it.
So I had 15 interns on that One Health, the pandemic prevention thing. Guess how many we've been able to convince to join us full time?
2.
1. Most of them have obviously come for their advanced degrees or they have gone to big tech.
And also the way the landscape looks like is a learning curve. It's not like you get a data scientist and they are like, okay, I know. The learning curve to just understand the roadmap and the architecture will take time. So there's a big challenge of...
it's a big challenge.
Get retired, folks.
Happy to have a sign. You all didn't know this. That was not sign up sheet to attend the talk. That was a volunteer sign up sheet. If you wrote your emails,
we know where you live.
No, but it's okay if people leave and go off and join the other companies and things like that. You can bring in talent, which is people who are basically out of college or at an early stage and have the enthusiasm.
So by the way, we are not going to be picky, right? So by the way, the stuff that you saw at Varman AI, the first folks who built the POC on that were basically IIT Bombay graduates who had just come out and they were all going to their respective masters or PhDs. And we caught them that summer after they graduated, and they were the ones who did the first POC on that thing, right? So any master students here, any interns, anything works, right?
The thing that we have is you're solving important problems and big challenges with a small amount of resource.
Yeah.
And those are if someone has $100 million, then it's easy to put solutions together and you can hire the best people and do things that way. But it's when you have limited resources and a short amount of time, like the COVID issue or with dengue and things like that, and you have to deliver some solutions within 3 months, that's when it triggers innovation and people come up with good ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just had one last part was, did you try hackathon-based things wherein you had like specific, because you do have decent data sets, you could do a pilot by taking samples out, and did you try a hackathon more?
To do that, I'll give you my honest opinion about hackathons, having been right? I think they are great educational experience. But if you want to make something stick, hackathons are neither validation of the importance of the problem, nor validation of the solution, right? They are great starting points at best. This requires far more this thing. We are doing hackathons. We recently worked with MIT HackMed team to do some hackathons, etc. And that's all wonderful. They are great education experiences. But I'm yet to, and I often stress that to the winners of a hackathon that, look, this was step 0. You just got exposed to a potential problem and you have a potential solution. The market has validated neither. right? Market either from impact perspective or commercial perspective.
So we hear, sorry.
Oh, sorry, really good question. Is there a possibility to frame a lot of these solutions as for-profit? And have you tried that? What's your experience been with that?
So I built 2 for-profit social enterprises. Before I built Barlani AI, which was before I did this thing. My journey has generally taken me in search of greater impact from for-profit. By the way, there is definitely space for-profit social enterprises, but it is not for everything. One of the challenges I often saw is this trying to force fit a business model where a business model perhaps doesn't belong, right? And sometimes I'm amazed with the amount of money that already exists in social systems that is not getting used, right? And profit motives can take you in different directions often, right? So yes, there are, it's a different conversation to have regarding in what circumstances does profit motive, profit-driven organization makes sense. But if you are a for-profit organization, a lot of the places where I engaged, it would have been a non-starter. Right? I'm working with ICMR on creating sort of the sort of digital public infrastructure, etc. Folks can build on that and offer value-added services as for-profit, etc. Totally fine with it. But the underlying system has to be non-profit in nature. So, yeah, very good question to ask.
I was saying a couple of things. So are you looking for people to do like summer internships and things like that?
Yeah.
And if so, have you gone to either IIT itself? I mean, you know that IIT, they are yearning to get internships in the summer, this current students. And I think some of them are really bright, okay? That's so one source of where you
I
can
believe
get.
all IIT students are there.
No, I'm saying Madras because you have the connection.
Yes, yes.
Makes a huge difference. You say, I'm this hostel, this bad, they will come, okay? Second thing is, have you tried tier 2 cities where, like Coimbatore, for example? Because are you very Bangalore centric and you're competing against the MNCs and whatever, right? Do you have locations in tier 2 cities? Because there's a great amount of talent there that wants to be local, hence they are loyal and stable. Just thoughts.
Both good points, we'll look into that. So far with respect to IITs, etc., I think first we need to make a more concerted effort. I mean, all this work you've seen on this stuff. See, I should talk a little bit about Art Park beyond this too. I'll do that if I'm allowed on that. But so far it's been, like the interns that I talked about, we did get from IITs and we also got from colleges like PES in Bangalore and RV College of Engineering, etc. in Bangalore. But you have a good point, we should go after the NITs and others too. We should do that. We're just like getting started on some of these things, so we should do that, absolutely. And we'll put out fellowship and internship and even mentorship kind of profiles and requests and we'll put out there.
Just a quick addition to that, Department of Engineering Design has a mandatory 6-month internship. So you might also be interested if you want longer interns.
Sure.
It has to be the whole semester and they don't have any course requirement during it.
Okay.
So they would be in
This is at IITM?
Yeah.
Okay. And they do data science stuff too?
Some of them, it's a very
They learn in the first month.
Not every.
No, you're right actually.
I like that.
This is a lot of problems to solve, right? As you're saying, startup for startups, you have prioritization and all those stuff, like,
See, actually,
what is the real need?
everything we do is held together quite well by this thing, right? Yes, it feels like a lot of stuff, but it actually feels platform initiatives I talk about. Right? And our intention is to continue to plug away at these 3 things. Right? I should also take this opportunity to say a little bit about the things besides the AI for social impact work we do. So we are created as part of what's called National Mission for Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems. That's a mouthful, you don't have to remember that. Let's say the DST program. NMICPS is an amazing program where they have created Section 8 non-profit entities for technology, application-oriented technology development and startup incubation. Right? So we build startups. IIT Madras has something called Pravartak that's been doing amazing work incubating startups. Right? It's a sort of counterpart of Art Park in some sense at IIT Madras. And so are other institutions at other IITs. I think they're 20-25. Our focus, especially on the startup side, has been more on the robotics and autonomous systems side. So we've just spun out entirely in-house built 5 startups and invested in another 7 of them. And we support close to, I think, 30 other startups in various spaces. Right? So there's a lot happening in general in India with these institutions, and these are all opportunities for you folks, not just in AI, but also in the physical embodiment of AI, that is robotics and autonomous systems.
So this is all under Art Park?
Yeah, the startups, etc. are happening under Art Park. We've just spun out, like I said, 5 companies based on technologies that have come from within IISc, but we have also invested in 7 other companies that have come from around India, not just IISc. And this is what several of these incubators are now doing. Our focus on the startup side is especially been on robotics and autonomous systems.
So, Bitcoin hit the all-time high. And
Sorry?
Bitcoin. So, the blockchain technology is probably something that can have looking for solutions. So, have you thought of anything you could do with that, putting the database into that? Or,
We haven't quite started looking at blockchain yet. But I'm happy to hear ideas and thoughts on how and where we might want to do that. Right? It's not clear to me yet that is where our energy needs to go right now. But happy to chat offline and get your thoughts on it. As we are architecting and engineering the systems, we should also be thinking about some things.
So it seems like a large part of embedding yourself in the system to affect change relies on social capital or people you know, connections. So what's your advice to someone who's sort of having a cold start or wants to have a cold start in this non-profit space like this?
Great, come work first. No, but seriously, I think you have a very astute observation, right? Try again, but I will generalize on my, not us, try to find places where you can launch off. Right? But it is very difficult to be an individual and try to work with the system. Right? And I had already been working in the social impact space for 13 years or so, and I still think that the fact that I am based at an institution like IISc, I could have also been at IIT. Right? It adds another layer of credibility that's extremely useful. Right? That I knew, especially on the health side, like the people and institutions involved and who does what and their relationships, all that obviously was like a big kind of a big leg up for me in getting these things started very quickly and getting them to a place. Right? But I don't think that would have been possible without, I mean, Art Park is all 2 years old, we are 3 years old, but all these institutions were created in 2020. First year was a washout in the pandemic anyway, so we are broadly about 2-year-old organization, right? So where am I drawing that credibility from? I'm drawing the credibility from being based at IISc, having been created by DSP, so on and so forth. But yeah, you could go work for any number of well-regarded organizations, make your connections, build your capital, so forth. Right? I came from, I went from Embrace, which was a medical device company in the health space, went and did Bhagwani AI, I'm not an AI, I just somehow stumbled and made a career between the most smart people, innovators, and most impactful people that I implementers, right? But I was able to go from, take that medical device experience working with public health system and then say AI solutions for public health, right? Now I was able to then further go into some other areas such as language, etc. I think it's just a journey.
2 questions and 1 comment. The comment is maybe if you want a full year of student, you can use dual degree projects maybe in collaboration with others or bachelor's projects. The two questions are you looking for talent at all levels, post-bachelor's, post-master's, post-PhD? And if I want to publicize at Stanford, say, is there something I can share with people?
Wonderful, you get all these things very quickly. Right? We are hiring people at all levels. In fact, it's very difficult to just have a bunch of interns running around. You need mentors and guides, so on and so forth, right, to hold it all together. And so we do need people at all levels.
And is there something I could send to people who are...
Yeah, we'll share that. And would it be possible to get like contact information of people who are
We
working
will do
with
that.
this?
Do we have, is she registered person?
Yeah. She's a well-known alum. No. She's a...
So, yes, to the extent that anybody contact him or me, and we will get you all the, connections, ongoing connections.
I will let me also do
And his email is out here, but we will help you. My name is Seshan Paradise, and there is nothing,
So please connect with me on LinkedIn. I used to have a QR code up there. Someone recently pointed out that it points to the wrong website or something. So I haven't fixed it yet. But you can reach me on LinkedIn, WhatsApp, or email. And yeah, I'm very grateful for all your interest and attention.
I think you may have touched upon some of this already. Like, could you give some examples of projects either at Wadhwani or Harvard where maybe you go as well, right? Like what you learned from those.
Yeah, I think the biggie thing, right? It took a long, simple question of what accuracy is good enough, right? You saw what accuracy the system actually has. But they demand 50 grams accuracy on this solution. So now that's something that, and then you need to validate these things. Initially we thought we need X number of babies. Obviously, like all data science problems, we need 3x or 4x or 5x the number of babies, etc. Right? It's still not widely deployed. We still believe it's a very impactful solution, but we are going through the validation process as we speak. Cough-based screening is another thing during COVID we had done. We had good results, cough-based screening in conjunction with RT-PCR, in especially days when RT-PCR supply was very limited. Right? The non-profits and government got very excited, they wanted to launch it. We said, well, we can't launch it because it was built for a certain use case, and use cases that we are looking for is something else. They got mad at us. Right? Then we said, well, if you are so interested, why not some of the ICMR institutions help us do that. But ICMR institutions did not have a system. By the way, that not doing well has directly led to pretty much all the work that you're seeing me do at ArtPark are things that I learned from previous work. You can say not go well, or you can say lessons and learnings.
Question, are any of the data sets ready and published at this point, or it's in the collection?
Which one?
Data sets.
You're talking about the ICMR thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they are in still collection mode, etc. I think it will take us probably later part of this year is when we will actually start seeing these data sets out. This all just started, right? So, I mean, folks, it took us good 2 years to get the system to this point to say, hey, we will do this, right? So,
well, typically, I mean, the software solutions end up coming from small companies and small organizations and things like that. But good data sets are collected by large organizations and government entities. I mean, they are the ones who have access to it,
yes.
and can collect that. So, yeah, you get a good data set and then you put it on Kaggle and then come up with a project on there, and then suddenly there'll be interns coming out of it and people getting jobs.
Yeah, we are going to be doing all this. In fact, we don't even, I think we want people to come to this particular, we are going to run hackathons and all this sort of stuff. Right? We are not trying to build the algorithms ourselves, we are trying to bring to good data sets. Not all data will be exposed. Some of this data will be set aside for validations, etc. Right? That's a key element of it. And some data will be exposed for whoever wants to do their R&D and so on.
Yeah, and especially when you're talking about open source, even here, the problem is the EMR and health record, right, from hospital to hospital, like sharing, that's where they have the blockchain and all. Because I work for healthcare data, and like, are you following any of the models here? Like Epics is something that now all the hospitals are using.
In terms of
sharing
data sharing, etc., that is what the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission has already set the standards.
Okay, okay. Right. And the governance, everything is taken care of.
Yeah, so it is all part of that. So in fact, if a hospital deploys a new system, that has to be compliant with that, and that is certified through a process, and there are various levels, M1, M2, M3 levels, that actually there's a certification sandboxes to certify these software and systems, right? And in a way, it is all interoperable. They run off this thing called ABHA, which is Ayushman Bharat Health Act. It's not ID. If that's the case, it would be ABI. Right? So Ayushman Bharat Health Account, right? Which is your account. So if you have a health app, you should be use that to basically, when you go to this provider, you should just be able to kind of get access to that and share this provider through, essentially, if you want it, like a fingerprint sort of thing. That's how you can give consent.
But the platform you are building on is the open source data, right?
Yeah. So the platform, so remember I told you I'm not the EHR platform. I'm a platform to collect much more rich and accurate data than the EHR systems use. We will be compliant with ABDM standards, but the data that I demand of a data set for a particular use case is going to be a lot more complete and comprehensive and accurate and so on and so forth.
If this is off topic, please let me know and I'll discuss it offline. But since you have a background in medical devices, and I know ArtPark also does a lot of robotics hardware, are the concerns and challenges and learnings similar, or is that a completely different story for social good, hardware for social good?
No, there certainly are some different things, but if you generally say social good, right, you could replace in that slide, right, AI for tech, right, and it's still valid, right. You could just remove AI and put tech there, and you'll have analogous questions here to ask, right? From that perspective, it's the same. And same with the general systems perspective, right? So that's still same. Why at Embrace, at a point of time, I was really sick of doing these pilots in every state, because the system did not have a way to adopt this new kind of incubator for babies into their systems. Incubators are these big machines. We came out of a backpack. So doctors didn't know what to do with it. Yes, I had multi-center clinical trial data led by Professor Vinod Bhutani here at Stanford, done at very good places, name brand institutions in India. But that still was not good enough, because there is no line item for an Embrace type infant warmer. Right? There's a line item for an incubator. So that has to go into the budget. For it to get procured through the budget is one piece, the workflows and processes and behaviors are another piece. Let's just stick with the budget. To get it into the budget means there needs to be a line item for that. Those budgets are created at the state, approved at the center. Right? The state has to first create such a line item, which means state needs to at least pilot my device, which means I had to assemble a medical committee of expert committee at the state level, because medicine is state subject. Right? To say such and such thing, we used it, has some impact, we want to acquire not one or two of it, maybe 100 of it, 1,000 of it, so on and so forth. Right? So this sort of, how does a system adopt a new innovation, is a challenge, hardware or software. And you have to figure out what those mechanisms are.
And with that, we're going to take a minute. It's 8 o'clock. We're going to vacate the room. I want to give Raghu a recognition. Let us give him a round of applause, please.
really want to
I'd
thank
like to.
Session.
Wait, just hang on.
So, I'd like to invite Session to say a few words.
Couple of words, only, not much.
Let's come.
Just like everybody knows Naren, everybody, actually, many of you may know me, you may have even forgotten me. But my name is Seshan Rammohan, 1968, one of the old folks around here. I, like Naren, I also served on the IIT Mana board here, as well as the National IIT Mana board. And then several years ago, Professor Bhaskar and others from the institute asked me to start the IIT Madras Foundation. And the last 8 years now, we've been working on it for 15 years, but the last 8 years we've been live. We've raised about $40 million for IIT Madras from alumni, not from institutions, from individuals. Like Sunil Wadhwani, we just talked about. This year, he gave us $14 million, 110 crores, for setting up the Wadhwani School of AI that Professor Ravindran is the faculty in charge for. So those kinds of things. It took us 9 years to talk to him, to get him convinced to write a big enough check to do something that he wanted to do at the institute, that the institute also wanted. So that's what it is, it's a long cycle thing. So we are hoping to raise 100 million, we are about 40 million. So not bad for 8 years. That's one thing. We also helped establish the IIT Madras incubation cell on campus, which is the best incubator in the country today and continues to be in beating Bombay on a regular basis. But notwithstanding that, the fact is that we have created that and it has helped others. And there are many startups, 350 plus deep tech startups in the last 10, 11 years. The third most important thing that Naren and I work on together is pre-COVID, we did these technology summits on an annual basis. We had Director Bhaskar and Dean Ram Nagarajan came, and then later on Mahesh, and brought about a dozen faculty, and we did this annual tech summit, just one Saturday we did, it was fantastic. To challenge the faculty that they're doing research, who are doing world-class research, but they may be working on the wrong problems. Are they working on a global problem? Are they working with India-centric, or something just to publish a goddamn paper? So we have opened up their minds, and I am now have been working on it for 6.5 years on a bi-weekly call with alumni who in turn work with faculty to engage them and challenge them and help them in connecting them with academia and industry over here. Enough of the soapbox, but the most important thing is we are very happy to bring people like Raghu in front of you with Naren's help to get you to know what's happening in India, but also at the institute. And many of you may not know unless you have visited there or talked to somebody, your own friends or other alumni. Please do so. And if you ever want to figure out any way to engage with the institute, reach out to Naren or to me, and we will help you do that. And with that, I mean, this guy I know for about 6 years now, or 5 years.
Yeah.
But out of the blue, the guy picks up the phone or sends me a WhatsApp, man. I'm going to do this talk at MIT. Can I do a similar one in the Bay Area? And then I called Naren. He said, absolutely. So that's why he's here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for this. One last thing. Whenever we do a free event, especially Naren, he always either looks for a sponsor or charges something. So we talked, no charging. IIT Madras Foundation sponsored this.
Thank you.
A couple of announcements and we'll wrap up. First of all, I want to, on behalf of IIT Mana, give Raghu something
Yes, thank you so much.
that is recognized worldwide. Just a couple more announcements. So thank you all for being here on a weekday evening. Raghu's schedule is quite tight and he gave us a particular day and a time, and then we had to find, there's never a perfect place in the valley to host an event, and so we thought Cupertino might be one of those locations where we'll get, so it's great, we had more than 40 people showing up here on a weekday evening. Couple of announcements. One is, if you want any memorabilia, please, it's easy to pick up one on the way out. You can just write your name, we'll figure out how you can pay later on or you can pay right away. If you already have memorabilia, get it for a family member or a friend. Exactly. Okay, Janvi's eyeing it. Good one. Okay. And Second, we have got a half hour here, okay? We have to be out by 8:30. Please clean up, if you got any things with you, just put it in the trash. And a few helping hands to help clean up the place would be appreciated if you could do that, okay? Other than that, there's some more food. Biggest help is take some food when you go, if you or eat it here, because that beats us trying to distribute it somewhere or dump it, so that would be the greatest help. And until the next IIT Mana event, I hope all of you stay safe and have a good time. So
like he said, the next half an hour you can continue to network and have the food and take some with you as you